Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy of September 2021. We're going to take a look initially at the energies that may surface for the collective, which we're all a part of, and then we'll take a deeper dive into your personal life path number. So let's go ahead and get started. So September is a 14-5 energy, which of course boils down to a 5 energetic cycle. But that 14 is influential, okay? So we need to keep that in mind, and I'm going to touch on the energies of the 14 as we move through the reading. But ultimately, this is a 5 energetic cycle. So we have a 5 universal year that we're currently moving through in 2021. And now that 5 energy is enhanced by a 5 universal month. So we can expect great changes that occur abruptly and without much notice. So if ever there were a time to be flexible and full of grace for self and others, it's during a 5 universal year coupled with a 5 universal month. So buckle up, baby, because it's about to get bumpy. But in a good way. Okay, so things under a 5 energy move very, very quickly because it's a fast-moving energy, right? So you may see incredible shifts and transformations within your life at this time. You may never have even seen these shifts coming, right? They just seem to come out of nowhere. This energy can sort of see people completely uprooting or changing their entire life story within the blink of an eye. This energy can often feel like a sort of greater power or higher power is sort of taking the wheel and taking over, and life is almost happening to you. Generally, where this ride takes you will lead you to the realization of, oh wow, I never would have thought to do that or to be this, but I'm so glad that I did, right? So it's like, again, it's like this higher power swoops in and hits fast forward on the story, and where you end up, you ultimately realize is a perfect place for you at that time, if that makes sense, right? So that realization may take some time to get to, but understand that when these big shifts come in, they come in to assist, not to penalize. This isn't vindictive energy, it's transformational. Both can feel incredibly challenging, right? To go through. So when someone's being vindictive, that's a challenging energy to go through. When you're going through some kind of transformation, that is also incredibly challenging at times. So however, the transformational energy will leave you in a better place from where you started. So you just need to keep that in mind. Whatever challenges you face, whatever you're going through, during this 5 energy that is transformational will leave you in a better place than where you started, okay? Even if it takes a little bit of time. So try not to fight this energy, but rather move with it and work with it the best that you can, okay? So speaking of the 14, remember I said 14 is going to have an influence in this energy because it's the influencing number to the 5. So under the influence of the 14, there's this emphasis placed on modification. So life may feel like it's happening to you at times, but you can always find ways to modify or work with the energy to make it work for you without fighting it. It's very possible that the modifications that come up for you at this time to be explored or, expanded upon are modifications to self, to relationships, to career, and to lifestyle that have needed to be adjusted for a while. So this isn't necessarily going to blindside you or be surprising, although for some people it might be, right? It might be one of those things where you're sort of stuck in your comfort zone, stuck in a relationship that's toxic, stuck in a belief system or a lifestyle that's toxic, and you don't realize that it needs to be modified or changed. So it might blindside you, right? It might come in quite swiftly and abruptly, and those modifications might be made. And again, it could feel like a whirlwind. But for the most part, these are going to be things where you kind of knew, you had some kind of a sense that they needed to go away, they needed to change, they needed to be modified, right? And chances are you've known that for a while. So this sort of double dose of 5 energy this month from the 2021 Universal 5 cycle year, and now this September 5 energy, is simply giving you the gentle shove in the direction you need to be facing, right? So that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That doesn't mean it's going to be without its challenges. However, the struggles and challenges that you face and overcome during this time, or at least they're initiated during this time, through these modifications, will prepare you greatly for the magnificence you're about to step into, right? So again, it's like, it can feel challenging in the moment, but you just have to keep in mind, why is this happening? Why is this coming in? What is this challenge trying to show me? Try to ask yourself as often as possible, what is this challenge trying to show me? What am I meant to learn? Right? Why is this modification coming in now? Where is it trying to take me to, and why is it trying to move me beyond the space, right? Because there's always going to be, an answer there. There's always going to be wisdom to extract from that experience, no matter how challenging. And oftentimes the more challenging, the more wisdom to pull from it. So it's the wisdom of the experience that we're meant to carry with us, not the experience itself, right? Sometimes we get stuck up on the experience where we're like, oh, that really sucked, and now I'm going to think about it and complain about it and, sort of fret about it for the next 10 years. Whereas really what the universe is trying to get us to do is to extract the wisdom from that challenging experience and move freely forward, as opposed to trying to lug that whole experience with us forward and sort of replay it, rehash it, hold a grudge, whatever the case may be. So this is going to be a really quick moving, fast energy, with a lot of transformations, right? And so through that experience, not only are we meant to move ourselves through it and adapt, but we're meant to pull the wisdom from the experience, okay? So a lot going on this month. It's a very intense month. It's a very intense year, right? So I don't really see things slowing down until we get into 2022 at least, right? So if you're looking for a breather, you're probably not going to get it right away, but that's okay, because we're all in the same boat. This is universal energy, so we're all feeling this, baby. So again, proper handling of this 14-5 energetic vibration can produce great wisdom and understanding in your experience. 5 energy can be that of again, a testing nature. It's going to test us. It's going to sort of force us to take a closer look at the challenge, the situation, the modification, and where can we extract the wisdom. It's what we choose to do with this energy that will ultimately determine our overall experience, not only now, but moving forward. And so again, we have a lot of responsibility, but with great power comes great responsibility. So a 5 energetic cycle is also a perfect time to sort of check in with yourself. This is a checkpoint. See where any imbalances lie. What's working? What isn't? Where do I need to make modifications? What do I need to invest more into? So in numerology, where 1 energy is the beginning or the initiation, and 9 energy the completion or the ending, 5 energy sits in the middle, and it's the checkpoint. It creates the space and the opportunity to make the necessary changes needed before continuing on in the journey, to make certain that the direction we're moving in is the direction we actually want to be a part of, right? You don't want to get all the way to the 9 energy and be like, oh crud, I should have switched directions way back at that 5 energy. And so a lot of times the 5 energy doesn't force our hand. We always have choice, right? But it will make things very challenging or uncomfortable to help you see what you need to see, right? And so think of this as the checkpoint. This is why we can often see so many intense and abrupt changes, occur during a 5 cycle, because some of these changes we choose, Some of those changes are created for us by a higher power, but all serving to keep us aligned with our soul's highest mission in this lifetime. So the ego craves safety, security, comfort, and the known. The soul came here for so much more, right? If something feels as though it's being uprooted now, taken away, or there's a sense of upheaval, understand that true change is messy and chaotic at times, but on the other side of that chaos sits harmony, sits balance. So we can also see this playing out on the world stage quite dramatically at this time. So much change has to happen at this time in history, and it's during a 5 cycle that it can appear to be the most chaotic and the most messy. So by dismantling that which is no longer working, that takes some level of destruction and chaos, right, before the calm can enter. So that which is being dismantled often won't go without a fight, but it'll eventually lose steam and recede, right? And that's kind of, like I said, that's what we're seeing sort of play out on the world stage. We really started to see that in the 4 cycle of 2020. And now it's really coming to accumulation during this 5 cycle of 2021. And so I suspect that in September, we're going to see even greater manifestations of that chaos, of that dismantling, of those changes. Maybe not the change happening right away, but where it's highlighted where the change needs to happen. It becomes the front and center. There's no more denying it, right? So this 5 energy will ultimately teach us that the less we resist the change, the more comfortable the process of the change will feel and become. The more we resist the modifications and try to cling to what's no longer needed or no longer working, especially when it's harmful to ourselves or others, then the messier and the more challenging the experience becomes for all involved. So 5 energy teaches us to be flexible, to be adaptable to the inevitable changes and transformations that, it brings into our lives and that we ultimately face throughout our journeys. So allow September and this 5 energy to show you where modifications are needed within your life. Allow whatever changes that sweep in, to highlight for you where something was no longer working and needed an overhaul. If these changes aren't happening directly to you, perhaps you can hold space for those who find themselves immersed within this 5 energy. Perhaps you'll need to be the one creating the change in another person's experience, right? And so regardless, move as gently as possible and take full advantage of this incredibly transformational energy. It's here to help us with swift precision. So keywords this month to keep in mind as you move through this energy, perhaps it can be your mantra, is modification and adaptability. What do I need to modify and how can I be adaptable through the modification? Because I can almost guarantee that there's going to be a lot of modification either taking place this month or highlighted where it needs to take place. And then we're going to start to see that happening. And so the more adaptable that we can be, the more open we can be to the change, the more comfortable the experience will be, and the more that we will gain from the experience. Okay? All right, let's take a closer look at the life path number. Life path number 7. So I pulled an animal spirit card for you all, and you got the hermit crab. And so I will say, I feel like relationships are going to be coming up pretty strongly for you all this month. I feel like this is going to be a theme. And what I'm really getting with hermit crab is this sort of message that home is where the heart is. And so that may sound very, very cliche, but what I kind of felt when that came through is that you may be noticing a change in living situation, a change in a relationship where you're needing to move or make modification, right? We talked about that in the intro. This is a month of modification. This is a month of change, of really getting down to the nitty gritty of like, what do you want? What does your partner want? Are you on the same page? Is this something that's going to continue and is sustainable, or is this something that needs to fall that where both parties need to figure something else out, right? And so I just get this sense that no matter what sort of happens this month or in the months to come, especially around relationships, this feels very much around relationships. Whatever happens, just understand that you take that love, you take that home with you, just like the hermit crab, right? It's like, even if he outgrows his little shell, he can find something else to call home and carry with him. And so, you're not a part of that object. That object becomes a part of you, if that makes sense, right? Like the hermit crab will go into a space and make it its own and carry that with him. That object, that home, doesn't define or create or become the hermit crab. The hermit crab takes on whatever that is. And so my point is, I feel like for sevens, there could be a lot of flux, a lot of change, a lot of transformations this month, and specifically around relationships. And I think hermit crab is just trying to let you know that you are adaptable. You will create a loving environment. Wherever you go, you'll carry that with you, right? You take the magic with you. It's not the space that's magic, it's you, right? And so you'll take that with you. And so whatever transpires, whatever occurs, just understand that the magic, the love, the abundance, all of that is within you. You carry that with you, okay? It's not somebody else bringing it to you. It's not someone else gifting it to you. It's within you. And so when things feel a little bit dicey this month, or like there's change that occurs that might feel bigger than you, just remember hermit crab, this little hermit crab who, goes about its business and adjusts as needed, understanding that he is, it's all within him, if that makes sense. So it's really quite beautiful. So just kind of think about that as you move through the month and as you move through the coming months, especially as change happens. You are adaptable. You can make adjustments, okay? You carry it all with you, the love, the abundance, all of it. So, okay, I hope that makes sense. So I broke the month down into 4 weeks. And again, I just get this feeling that there's going to be kind of a lot going on with relationships. It doesn't have to be romantic relationships only. It can be work relationships, colleagues, clients, whatever the case may be, but interactions with people. I will, however, say that there is strong energy around relationships, like actual partnerships, right? Romantic partnerships, but it doesn't just have to be that. So, yeah. Okay. So the first week, I'm definitely seeing some challenges around a potential relationship. And so this is going to be, there's something where it's like, there's some kind of burden that you felt like you've had to carry, or there's some kind of miscommunication. There's something that's not working. And it's like, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you both try, you can't seem to get on the same page. You can't seem to see eye to eye on this. And this may be the time, this 5-month energy that we're in universally, this may be the month where that sort of like whatever happens is the straw that breaks the camel's back. And where you realize, okay, this just is not working. Now, that's not to say that that's got to be the case across the board. It could be that like you're both able to understand the struggle of where it's not working and make adjustments to where you don't feel like you have to carry it or do the work all by yourself, or that other person doesn't feel like they have to do it all by themselves, or whatever the issue is, right? But I'm definitely seeing some struggles coming to light around a relationship at this time. And again, it can be business partners or whatever too, colleagues, whatever, but something's sort of coming to a head. something that's been building, something that's been really like, that especially recently has been hard to ignore, is really coming into sight at this time. Because remember, we have 14-5 energy universally, and that is highlighting where modifications need to be made, where you cannot continue along doing the same thing that you've been doing that wasn't working, because you're not going to get new results. You see what I'm saying? So there's going to be some kind of almost like when there's a shift in the earth and then a volcano erupts. You see what I'm saying? Or it's just building, or an earthquake, right? So like the shift happens, the earthquake happens, perhaps a volcano happens, whatever. But it's like something that's been building, that's been challenging, or a struggle, or sort of the elephant in the room is now wanting or demanding to be recognized and worked through. And then whatever happens, whatever comes to fruition through that conversation, or those conversations, will be the decision that you guys decide on. But there's definitely, I think it's going to be really hard to ignore whatever this is at this point. It's gotten to the point where it's like something needs to shift, something needs to be modified for either to continue on or to part ways with this person, with these people, right? And so that is coming in incredibly strongly. So you may see some challenges come up around that first week. You may see, like I said, I feel like this is just going to be so in your face that it's going to be really, really hard to ignore. And if it's not you that brings it up, it might be your partner who brings it up. And it's like, okay, this is the situation. What are we going to do about it? And like, again, it kind of forces the modification. Okay, second week. This is interesting because, again, I see like sort of like this abrupt change coming in, but this actually feels more around like collaboration, working with people, money, resources, something like that. But it's definitely a quick and abrupt change. It's not a bad thing. It just feels really fast moving. It feels very like 5 energy. And so it makes sense that it's in this month. But it kind of feels like if there's some place that's felt like sort of like you've been in the desert, right? It's like all of a sudden in comes this wave to pull you out of that sort of dried up abyss. And all of a sudden you're going to see like an influx. And so I feel like this is like a good thing. This is a turning point career-wise for you, or purpose, or if you volunteer, maybe it does feel like it's resource related. So even if you're not currently working, this does feel like you could come into, I don't know, maybe you win the lottery, maybe you get an inheritance, maybe someone gifts you some money or something like that. And so, but it does feel like money, resources. It also feels like collaboration. So this could also be like somebody approaches you about working together, and through doing that, or creating together, and through that, you see an influx in money or resources or whatever the case may be. And what's interesting is it's kind of like the timing seems almost impeccable. Like something may happen with the relationship that maybe affects your finances, and then all of a sudden a solution comes like swooping in to where it's not going to be the resources that keeps you from, or the money that keeps you from parting ways or deciding what you need to do in that situation. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the money knight in shining armor that's not really a person, but it's like an energy comes like swooping in to like assist you and be like, you need to make the decision that's right for you, because the support, the resources, the abundance, all that stuff is here and will work out, right? And so anyway, there's just this really strong energy the second week of like collaboration, working with other people, getting some kind of offer to work with other people, getting some kind of offer, maybe getting new clients, something like that. But it feels like all of a sudden it's like a revolving door, like this an influx of whatever this is that brings a feeling of security and stability when it comes to finances and resources. So ultimately, good, right? It can feel very abrupt in the moment though, kind of like there's a lot going, I feel like for you all, there's going to be it's going to feel like there's a lot going on this month, right? So you may want to refer back to Hermit Crab, and it may be really tempting for you to sort of go within your shell, but I don't think this is going to be a month where you can do that. I think this is going to be a month where you need to be out there. You need to be like having these conversations, doing the hard work, like just showing up, putting in the effort, not retreating, and that will all pay off. But just again, remember, you've got everything you need within to be able to do this. So again, that second week feels good. It just feels hectic. It feels like sort of like being blindsided, but in a good way, but yeah, so third week, I feel like you're going to be I think you're going to have to make some very sound decisions about your future. I think you're going to have to get very clear about what you want, what you want to build, who you want to build that with, what that looks like. And then take your actions from that space and be very real with yourself in this process. I feel like, look to the past to pull the wisdom from the past, right? In making these decisions. But when you're looking to the future about, when you're creating the vision or the goal or whatever it is for the future of what you want, try to be very clear about that with yourself. And if you don't know, then this is an opportunity for you to go within, to really do that soul searching. And what's beautiful about sevens is you all are so in tune, generally speaking, with your inner workings, right? Like with what's going on within. You're very much already in that space of trying to, of really understanding what you want, of what that looks like and how to get there. And so I think this is going to be a week where you're going to sort of feel that connection to more the ethereal, the mystical, of connecting to your higher self, to pull that wisdom and then really take a closer look at that wisdom from the past experiences, really follow the guidance of your soul. And then when you sit down to make a very firm decision about your future, again, be very clear about it. Be very clear in your communication, not only your communication with others, but your communication with your higher consciousness, with the universe, and saying, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is how I'm going to get it. This is what I need to be able to obtain it. And if you're in a partnership, this could be a very honest, real, sort of raw conversation, which sometimes can be really challenging, but sometimes those conversations need to be had so that, again, you can be on the same page, so you can continue to grow together as opposed to growing apart. And so I do feel like this is going to be a time for a lot of self-reflection and a lot of discernment on your part, sevens, to decide what it is that you want and how you need to go about getting there, right? And just, again, being very honest with yourself and honest with those that you are working with or in a relationship with or whatever, okay? And not forcing other people to assume what you need or what you want, or not overly accommodating other people. Again, it's one thing to compromise, right? And I think that we have to do that throughout life on what we want, right? But we should never compromise on what we need. You see what I'm saying? It's like at some point, it's not selfish to say no when it's something that you need to be healthy, right? If it's something that you want, that's a little bit different. We can compromise on that, right? Desires, they change. But what you need, that's from a soul space, right? Like that's what you need to feel healthy, to feel whole. So if you've been compromising on what you need to sort of accommodate someone else's desires, this is going to be a time where you really need to get clear on what you need and what it is that you want and what you're willing to compromise on and what you're not willing to compromise on, okay? I think that's going to come up incredibly strongly and be very potent at this time for you sevens, but it's helping you to, again, stand in your own power and to recognize, this is what I want, this is what I need to build, and this is who I want to build it with, okay? When we go into the 4th week, again, we're back to sort of relationships. And this could be a couple of things. This could be, I do kind of get the sense for some of you, this is like a relationship being healed or completed. But you sort of going into solitude. So this, for some of you, this does feel like a parting of ways with a relationship, and you going into a period of solitude. So being alone, there's nothing wrong with that. That is, I feel like you may be stepping into a time where you need that solitude, where you need that time alone, that independence to, again, figure out what it is that you want, who you are, and what that looks like without the influence of another person. So this could be a very powerful time for some of you, a very independent, powerful time, finding your own sovereignty, finding your own autonomy and your independence, even if it's within a relationship, right? Like that's just as powerful. So for those of you who a relationship is not coming to an end and you're with somebody, this can be a time where the same thing holds true, where you are with this person, but you need to find your own independence within the relationship. You need to find your own autonomy within the relationship and stand within that sovereignty, right? Like stand within that and speak your truth, know your truth, and yeah, so this can be a really powerful time. For some of you, this feels like I don't know. For some of you, I'm just going to put it out there because it's a general reading. This could be like you meeting somebody, like meeting a partner or something like that, meeting a soulmate, coming together, but also having to maintain your own independence in that relationship. That is coming through really, really strongly. Whatever this relationship is, you are not going to be able to lose yourself within it. Okay, you have to maintain your own independence. Now you can, and that's healthy, right? It's healthy to have your own independence while being in a relationship and not losing yourself in that person or what they want, right? So yeah, I do feel like for the majority of you though, that this resonates with, this is going to be potentially an ending of a relationship, but one that's like very amicable. It's like it doesn't feel like it's kind of like a soul contract coming to an end and parting ways in a beautiful way. And then you being able to move into this next chapter independently as you work on yourself, as you find yourself, right? If that makes sense. Or if you rediscover yourself, let's put it that way. Because you were never lost. You've always been a part of who you are. And so again, just remember Hermit Crab. And yeah, so, but that's not a bad thing. The relationship ending, if that's what happens, whether it's a partnership or a business partnership or whatever, if it ends, understand that it's meant to. That contract is finished and you both completed your work beautifully for each other, right? It doesn't have to end aggressively. It doesn't have to end with, hatred and all that stuff. It can end very amicably as you go on your way. But again, for some of you, it could be that you're meeting a soulmate, you're coming into a contract with them, but the key is do not lose yourself within this person, right? Don't overly compromise what you need. Perhaps you need to compromise on what you want. That's different. But what you need, do not compromise on that. Do not sacrifice that side of yourself for the desires of another, okay? Because those needs, those are sacred. Those are things that you need, your soul needs, to accomplish what it came here to accomplish in this lifetime, right? And we are not meant to sacrifice those. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I would say throughout this month, sevens, just remember Hermit Crab. Little Hermit Crab hanging out on the seafloor, doing its thing in its little home, right? Like just living life, knowing who he is, and, adjusting as needed, right? Finding a new home if a new home needs to be found and making it their own, but understanding that everything is within themselves. I hope it's a beautiful month for you all sevens. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye for now.